Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of Stop Hiding, Start Living 5 Day Apart series. How are you feeling today? Let us know in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Today, Doug will be talking about your success mechanism. But before we begin, here are some things to remember. You can access the links to join each day, and all of the replays can be found in the 5-day portal. Check your inbox or the WhatsApp community. Join the WhatsApp community if you haven't already done so to access special bonuses throughout the week. Doug will also be available throughout the week on WhatsApp. We've set up a chat called Mentoring with Doug, so make sure to join. Doug will also be doing a bonus Q&A session today at 4 p.m. Eastern. If you have questions about anything so far, I encourage you to join the call. It's a great opportunity to get some clarity. Now, more details will be sent to you by email, and you'll also see more information in the WhatsApp group as well. Now, before we get started today, I want to share something that's been on my mind over the last couple of days. One of the biggest shifts I ever made was realizing that my external problems weren't actually the problem. For years, I thought if I could just fix my circumstances, then everything would be okay. But what I eventually discovered was that it wasn't my problems that were causing most of my suffering. It was the way I was thinking about my problems. That realization brought so much clarity into my life. Life didn't, all of a sudden become easy. We all know life comes with challenges, setbacks, uncertainty, and adversity. But once I understood that I had more control over my thinking than I realized, everything started to change. I felt more grounded, more stable, more capable of handling whatever life put in front of me. And that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about today's training, because when you understand how your mind actually works and how your success mechanism is operating behind the scenes, you begin to see why you've been getting the results you've been getting. And more importantly, you begin to see how to change them. This one idea changed everything for me, and I hope today's session gives you some of the same clarity. Okay, it's time to bring Doug back on for day 3. Welcome back, Doug. How are you doing?
I am back. No fire alarms today, I hope.
Hey.
If you guys weren't here yesterday or you missed the replay, it was kind of a choppy training because my fire alarm was going off intermittently during a test throughout the whole hour. So I had to talk, stop, talk, stop. But Linda was funny on our team. She said, Doug, it was kind of good that the fire alarm was on because you had to talk and you went slow and you were laughing. I was laughing. And she said, yeah, it was good. People had time to write stuff down. So she told me, slow down, smile. Anyway, I don't need fire alarms for that. So I'm looking forward to today. Thanks, Nancy, for kicking us off and for being here all week. You're going to get a chance to talk to Nancy if you like. We'll tell you a little bit more about that tomorrow. But today I'm excited about this. Is one of my obviously one of the most important things to talk about for me. That's probably why it's really one of the favorite things for me to talk about. So anyway, let's get started, and we'll be here for the next 50 or 55 minutes. Grab a pen and a piece of paper, or your journal, or your phone, or wherever you like to write stuff down. There's some things I really don't want you to forget. Okay, and I will take my time, give you time to write them down. I can see the chat actually right to the right of me here on my screen, so that's a little easier today. So, pardon me. By all means, if you want to throw something there, or if you go stop, wait, you can do that too. All right. So today what I want to do is I'm going to share with you how to think better so you feel better and you can do better in life. Like Nancy said, she thought if you just improved or solved her external problems, things would all be okay. And so I want to show you how you can think better, feel better, and then you'll do better. I'm also going to show you how the way that you think has been causing your problems so you can take control of your life and your well-being. So we just weren't taught to think properly. the way we learned from the adults in terms of how they thought and approached life and approached the problem. It's all been learned, and we just kind of follow one generation to the next. And then we'll also cover off where you've been going wrong, and you'll see why nothing's actually worked for you. So yesterday we talked about first off in day one. Remember, we talked about how results happen. If you want better results, you need to understand why you're getting the results that you are, or why you're not getting the results that you want. Okay, so we have to have that. We have to have that understanding of how we actually get results, because the results you're getting, good and bad, are all happening the exact same way. You may not realize that, you may not be aware of that, you may not yet understand it, but I think after today you'll have a much clearer picture. Yesterday, I asked you to stop asking the wrong questions about your struggles and start asking the right questions. So the wrong questions are, what's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? Where am I going wrong? We've really been asking the wrong questions, so the right question. First off, we have to stop questioning you. So stop questioning you and start questioning the methods. Okay. So stop questioning you and your capability and what you really truly are made of, and how good a person you are and the good you deserve. Let's stop questioning you for a little bit here. Okay. What we want to do is we want to start questioning the methods. So when I say question the methods, obviously one of the methods is how to think accurately, how to think properly. Your way of thinking, or the way that you were conditioned to think and operate, and your experiences that you went through in the past, have caused you all kinds of problems potentially. And so, of course, you're the one that has to live with the problem. And so you question you. So we got to question the methods, or what happened that got us to that point, and we. Sorry, forgive me, folks. Got a little interruption here. Just give me 1 second. My apologies. We got people coming in here into the Zoom room for some reason by mistake. If any of you are watching, you're trying to get into Zoom, we're on YouTube. So I'm not sure why people are here. My apologies for the interruption. So again, we've got to stop. I want you to stop questioning. I want you to start questioning the method. So today, one of the methods we're going to talk about is how you've been thinking, how to think the right way, and where your thinking has caused a lot of your problems. And because of those problems, you turn to methods to deal with your problems. And we should really be questioning the methods, and why those methods aren't actually working for you or solving your problems. And for me personally, I was trying to figure out what am I missing? I kept thinking, what am I missing? And I've been successful enough in my career that I thought I should be able to figure this out. And I was talking to so many people. I mean, that's what I do all day long. I just talk to people all day long, all week long, all month long, all year long, whether it's like this or in a Zoom. We're having a Zoom meeting at 4 o'clock today in a Q&A, whatever it is. And I'm going, why are so many people struggling? And it seems to be getting worse. What's going on? Now, you could be easily convinced or tricked to think, well, the world's worse off than it ever was. And I suppose in some respects you could say that. But I don't think that's really what the problem is. The methods that we follow, that we've been taught, or the methods we turn to when we have problems, clearly they're not working, because so many more people have more and more problems. And I really truly believe that we're on the potentially third and fourth generation of a system around our well-being that is actually causing us a lot of problems. So I have a daughter. She's 23. I was born in 1963, and I think really, 50s and 60s when things really started to go awry. So I started to go, why are so many people having such a hard time? That's really a good question to be asking. So let's take a look at what's going on and what's going wrong. And I just want to leave you with this thought as we go into today. Okay. There was never anything wrong with you. Okay. you've just been working on the wrong problem. All right. So I really want you to really take that in. There never was anything wrong with you. Okay. There's nothing to fix. All right. So today we're going to talk about your success mechanism. I just want to read just a couple of pages from the first chapter of this great book, Psycho-Cybernetics. And this was written in 1960, by the way. And he said, in the past decade, there's been a revolution quietly going on in the field of psychology, psychiatry, and medicine. And there was these discoveries, Maltz was included in this, these discoveries around the self-image and how our mind works and how the self-image directs the mind. And so he's quoting here from an article in January 1959 in Cosmopolitan magazine. It was written by T.F. James, Dr. T.F. James. Understanding the psychology of the self can mean the difference between success and failure, love and hate, bitterness and happiness. The discovery of the real self can rescue a crumbling marriage, recreate a faltering career, and transform victims of personality failure. And there's a lot of victims of personality failure in the world. And he said, on another plane, discovering your real self means the difference between freedom and the compulsions of conformity. So I'm on a mission to free people from their emotional prison. And one of the things that has got us in this prison, there's several things, but definitely this compulsion for conformity. I don't know if you remember me saying it yesterday, but Dale Carnegie, over 100 years ago, was talking and writing about the fundamental problem that we have in the world today, early 1900s, late 1800s. The fundamental problem we have in the world today is causing all kinds of neuroses, psychoses, complexes, mental health problems. The fundamental problem is people are trying to be somebody they're not because of this compulsion for conformity and this overinflated need to be liked or to be loved. And so he goes on here to your key to a better life. Whether we realize it or not, each of us carries about with us a mental blueprint or picture of ourselves. I want you to think about what is your mental blueprint or picture of you? It may be vague and ill-defined to your conscious gaze. In fact, it may not be consciously recognizable at all. So that's the other thing we got to get straight on. So a lot of the problems that you're experiencing, and then the things you turn to deal with your problems, cope with your problems, resolve your problems, a big problem is that this blueprint might not even be recognizable to you at all. And it's actually quite simple to find this image. And he says, there's a complete image down to every last detail. This self-image is our own conception of the sort of person I am. It's been built up from our own beliefs about ourselves. But most of these beliefs about ourselves have unconsciously been formed from our past experiences, our successes and failures, our humiliations, our triumphs, and the way other people have reacted to us, especially in early childhood. And from all these things, we mentally construct a picture of self, how we see ourselves. And then he says here, once an idea or a belief about ourselves goes into this picture, it becomes true as far as we are personally concerned. So there's a bunch of things about you that you think are true that aren't actually true, but they're true as far as you're concerned. And you don't question its validity, but you proceed to act upon it just as if it were true. And so we got to start asking the right questions, right? You're not questioning the validity of this picture, this blueprint. You might not even be aware of it completely. And you don't question it, and you act upon it as if it is true without question. And again, like I said on Monday, the first place to look at, if you want to understand this image you're holding yourself, is take a look at your results, right? The negative ones specifically, okay? The positive ones are fine, and you're operating from a positive perspective, and that's why you get positive results. It's the negative results that we want to uncover. What's going on that's causing these poor results? Well, they're caused by your behaviors and your actions. Most of your behaviors and actions are automatic and habitual. All your behaviors come from your beliefs. And so that's the problem. We just have to uncover what the beliefs are that are driving this. Now, he said the self-image becomes a golden key to living a better life because of two important discoveries. Number one, all your actions, feelings, behaviors, even your abilities are always consistent with this self-image. Okay. And he goes on here, but because of how we see ourselves, this picture, our experience is seen to verify and thereby strengthen our self-images, and either a vicious or a beneficent cycle, as the case may be, is set up. So depending on how you see yourself, a beneficent, like a positive cycle can be set up. Feel like a winner, act like a winner, do good, feel good, be good, right? That's the beneficent cycle, or this vicious cycle where you're thinking there's something wrong with you and you need fixing, and maybe there's just some faults that you have and you're broke, whatever the negative image you have of yourself, that sets up this vicious cycle. And so the second piece of good news is the self-image can be changed. And he said, no one is ever too young or too old to change their self-image and thereby to start a new life. Unfortunately, all efforts, and this is what Nancy said when she opened, all efforts at change have been directed to the circumference of the self, so to speak, rather than to the center. So what does he mean? We're focusing on the outside. If I could just lose 20 pounds, if I could just, earn more money, if I could just, and what we're doing is we're focusing on the external problems, and we think if we solve those problems, then everything is going to be okay. So we don't want to focus on the circumference. I mean, you can, but it's really a lot of work. It's a lot easier to focus on the center, the center of you is your self-image. Okay. It's a lot easier to clear up a bunch of beliefs about that and about you. And then cleaning up your circumference gets really, really easy. So that's kind of where we're going today. I want to talk to you about this automatic success mechanism. All right. So a few things to know. All right. Each and every one of you, even you, I had a hard time believing, even me, even you, we've all been gifted with a built-in automatic success mechanism. Okay. And this mechanism, it directs our brain and our nervous system. Okay. So we all have this wonderful gift called this mechanism. All of you, no matter what your situation is, no matter about your past failures and humiliations or anything like that, no matter where you are right now, we've all been engineered for success by our Creator. Okay. Each and every one of us has been engineered for success by our Creator. Unfortunately, most people don't know this, and we weren't taught to think very well. So I never heard about this mechanism. I mean, I heard about my brain, and I was taught to go to school and to study and do all these things, but I had no idea that I was gifted with this mechanism that could direct me to the goals that I have in my life, whether they're personal goals, professional goals, material goals, or psychic goals, which is, peace of mind. Okay. So what we got to do is we should then take a look at how this mechanism works, so we can see where we've actually gone wrong. Okay. So there's a few rules, 5 rules that you need to adopt, accept, and practice following. Okay. Number 1, this mechanism, it's like a torpedo or a guidance missile, or like the GPS on your phone. It's searching for a target. And so you must provide this mechanism with a goal or a target. Okay. Now, if you're having problems in your life, the goal and target, whatever you dwell in or dwell upon. So I want you to think about what you think about most of the time. Okay. And you're probably dwelling more on your problems than you're dwelling on the outcomes that you'd like to have in your life. So you don't have to have these big audacious goals, but your mind does require a target. And so it's like a scanner. It's always scanning around, looking around, and it's waiting for you to direct it to a target. And how do you direct it to a target? You direct it with your thinking. Okay. You have what's called your forebrain or your rational mind. You have the ability to choose where you'd like to go. I always reference this like taking a trip. Where would you like to go? I'd like to go to Rome. I'd like to go to Spain, right? And so we have to provide our mind with a target, and then we have to train ourselves and practice to keeping our eye on moving forward, regardless of what's going on around you and regardless of things that have happened to you that are behind you. So number one, you've got to give it a goal and a target. So you got to train your mind to stay focused, not on your problems, but on ultimately the solution that you want or where you'd like to be a week, a month, 6 months, a year from now. You can even go out, 1, 5, 10 years, go out as far as you want with your picture. But you've got to keep your eye on your port of call. Okay. So there's a great analogy of, operating your mind is like operating a ship, the captain of the ship. So you hold the helm, you are the captain of the ship, and you have to just keep yourself pointed towards the destination, towards the port of call. Okay. Number two, it's what's called teleological, meaning your mind, what it does, it navigates towards the goal, to the end result. Okay. And so the challenge is when you're first learning this, is when you're first starting to practice it, it's kind of difficult to turn over and let this machine do the work. And so it automatically navigates. Just again, like if you put an address in your car and you're trying to get somewhere, the GPS navigates and you relax and it calls out the directions. Well, your mind works just the same way. And the hardest part is not becoming discouraged on how it works or worry about the plan. So we're too worried about the how. We're too worried about the way things are going to go. It's not your job to worry about how to get to the goal. That's your mind's job. Okay. So you supply the goal, and this automatic mechanism, it supplies the directions. Okay. So number one, you got to have a goal. Number two is teleological. It navigates towards the goal or to whatever you're thinking about, and you have to just begin to let it do the work. Okay. Just like this machine I'm talking to. Okay. So you have this machine. All right. You're not a machine, but you have a machine and you're the operator. Right now, we're all operating this computer. I'm talking to you. I'm looking at the camera. Microphone is on. I'm hands free. Okay. And we're letting the computer do the work. All right. We spend too much time overthinking and worrying. We don't just let it work. Okay. Number three, don't be afraid of making mistakes. Okay. We're so afraid to make mistakes. And most of you know why. Like I said, when I opened, there's this compulsion to conformity, right? We're worried about what people think. And then we're worried about making mistakes because the way we've operated, we've made mistakes and we don't like the outcomes that we've produced and we don't want to repeat those outcomes. So people are very afraid to embark on this new journey because they're worried they're going to screw it up. But you have to get comfortable making mistakes because that's how the machine learns. Okay, that's how computers learn. Right? That's how this mechanism learns. It learns by making mistakes. Okay, but what it does is it remembers the successes and it forgets the failure. So how it learns, okay, is you're going to go ahead, you're going to take a wrong turn, and the machine will go, hey, turn around and go this way. And so you have to get comfortable with this idea of making mistakes, and don't be fearful if you make a mistake. Like if you're driving along, you're not paying attention to the GPS, and you miss your turn. All right, that's a mistake in terms of navigating effectively to where you want to go. And so what you do is you get off of the next exit if you're on the highway, and the map is already telling you to, turn around, cross back over, et cetera. It gives you directions that basically get you back on course. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. Okay. And the way it learns is by trial and error. Okay. The example he uses in the book is a torpedo. So a torpedo, when dropped in the water, it fails its way to the target. Okay. So you have to get used to and get comfortable, and actually embrace failure. I like failure, because I know I'm going to find out how to get where I want to go. Now, just because I'm making mistakes and failing, it doesn't mean I am a failure. Okay, so that's a big mistake people make. You think you're a failure. Okay, you're not a failure, but you are going to fail and make mistakes in order to get to where it is you want to go. And then lastly, this is the hardest part. You must learn to trust this creative mechanism, and let it do its work. And don't jam it up with too much conscious thinking. All right. We use our forebrain way too much. We're constantly overthinking, overanalyzing, second guessing. Okay. If you're doing that, if you call yourself a procrastinator, or you can't focus, or you're not disciplined, or anything like that, that's not true. You just think that's how you've labeled yourself because of the way you're operating this creative mechanism. Okay. So you got to learn to trust it, let it do its work. Don't jam it up with too much conscious thinking. It's just like driving down the highway, the GPS on. You just let it do the work, and you just steer the automobile and relax and enjoy the drive. Okay. So those are the 5 critical points I want you to not forget. Now, where are you going wrong? So let's take a look at where we're going wrong with this. Okay. So because your mind is a machine, and you're the operator, and it operates a certain way, I think it would be prudent that we learn how to direct this success mechanism. Okay. It's not complicated stuff, folks. It's really, really simple. I mean, these days, a 1-year-old can pick up one of these and they can start operating it effortlessly and easily, sometimes even better than the adults. Okay. But it does operate a certain way. So here's a few ways that things are going wrong. One way, this is all learned behavior, by the way. Okay. If you think too far ahead and you worry about the future, it puts stress on the machine. Okay. You're putting strain and stress. You're jamming up the machine. Okay. Now remember, this automatic mechanism, it directs your brain and nervous system. So if you're living with anxiety, stress, burned out, whatever your ailments are, your symptoms are, okay, it's because you're not thinking correctly. So anxiety, for example, all anxiety is, you break it down to its simplest format. We've made it way too complex. The pharmaceutical and the psychology world like to make it complex because those are multi-billion-dollar industries. All right. All of your anxiety primarily stems from the way that you think, because all anxiety is you're worrying about the future. You don't know what's going to happen. You're worried about what's going to happen. You make up all kinds of stories about what's going to happen or what might go wrong. You play all these scenes in your imagination, and so you're thinking too far ahead. And if you're trying to control what's going to happen tomorrow, and the next day, and next week, well, you can't. And you just keep trying to, but you can't. And that's what's creating a lot of stress. And the only reason we worry about the future, because we're afraid. We're afraid of failing. We're afraid of making a mistake. We're afraid of what people are going to think. And so all of your worries and all your future thinking is basically, you think it's helping you mitigate or minimize the risk or the failure, but it's actually causing more failure, right? So number one, we have to learn to think the right way. And one thing we need to do is we have to train ourselves to literally be operating in 24-hour blocks, one day at a time. I know you've heard one day at a time. People throw it around all the time, but very few people actually know how to think one day at a time. And when you begin to trust how this mechanism works, and you see it in action, you see it produce better results, you'll have a lot more faith and you'll stop worrying about the future. Okay. Another thing we learned to do, so we were taught to worry about the future, right? We were taught to, get advice, get second opinions, right? You better plan for it, and better research, and we do way too much overthinking and over planning about the future. We don't let the mechanism do what it's designed to do. Okay. Another problem you have is that you stay stuck in the past, or you dredge up old memories, and then of course you stay stuck in the story. Okay. You've probably heard this. It's been said many different ways. Scientists, theologians, everybody has agreed on this one thing, and that is that we become what we think about all day long. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So we got to pay attention to what we're thinking about. So if you're worrying about the future and you're creating anxiety and stress, that's why you're stressed out and burned out. Okay, you're burning yourself out. Okay, and your burnout and stress is because of how you're viewing your circumference, your outer world, your problems, and that creates a lot of problems in our physical state, our emotional state, our nervous state. I see people online all the time talking about how to regulate your nervous state. And I listened to it for a little bit. I go, that's not how you regulate your nervous state. What they're talking about is how to just cope with the nervous state that you might be creating with your thinking, right? So we can't think too far ahead. If we look at the past, we dredge up the past. Those stories come back, the emotions come back, the guilt, the judgment, the resentment, the shame, whatever happened to you in the past, or the mistakes you made, it's not relevant to this mechanism. It doesn't care about the past. It just cares about where do you want to go, right? And it provides you how to get there. Now, another problem that we make is we use our past as a reference point. And so then the goals, what you think about, becomes your focus, and the mechanism pursues it. So this is we have to understand this, that this mechanism, it's automatic, okay? And it uses your imagination for both success or failure. And the difference between success and failure is what you're imagining. Okay, what are you imaging, or what are you imagining? What are you thinking about? And so if you're thinking about the past, and if you're worrying about the future because of fear and doubt and worry, you're trying to, hedge your bets, you're going to have a problem. Now, I didn't know this, but I really want you to get this straight. So I want you to think about one of your problems right now. Okay, what's the biggest problem that you're dealing with in your life? It could be a money problem. It could be a problem at home, relationship or kids, or could be a problem at work. I want you to think about the main problem you're facing in your life and how it's making you feel. Remember, we talked about that. I said, hey, what are your problems in life? How is it making you feel? And then how do you feel about you, or how do you label you? Okay. So we have to understand that if we're dwelling on our problems, and we're dwelling on the past that created the problems, and if we're worrying about the future, then the mechanism says, oh, well, that's the goal. That's what she's thinking about. And what it does is, whatever you're thinking about, the mechanism brings up appropriate emotions to go along with what you're thinking about. And so in order to pursue goals, achieve goals, and a better life, we have to keep our mind focused on that. And the machine brings up appropriate emotions to go with that, to carry us through the challenges, carry us through the mistakes, carry us over the hill or around the roadblocks. Okay, it brings up appropriate emotions. So I just want you to think about what you think about in terms of your problems, and that's the emotions that are coming up. Okay, so it's not a mental health problem, folks. It's a thinking problem, and it's the way you're thinking and it's what you're thinking. Okay. So it's an automatic mechanism that directs your brain and nervous system, and through your imagination, whatever you think about, it either creates success or it creates failure. Okay. So before we move on, I want you to get this straight. In fact, I want you to type this in the chat. Okay. I want you to get this straight. You're not a failure. You may have failed and you will fail again. Okay. But you're not a failure. I want you to write to the chat. I'm not a failure. Right. Let's just stop there for a second. And I want you to do that. I'm not a failure. Let's just draw that line right here before we move on, because if I don't get you to draw that line, well, then you might have a hard time listening to the rest of what I'm about to tell you. Okay. I'm not a failure. I don't know how delayed the stream is, but let's see if it comes up. There we go. Thank you, Bill. First one. I'm not a failure. Everybody say it. Type it. I'm not a failure. Damn it. I'm not a failure. Damn it. I'm not a failure. Swear if you have to. Okay. Let's get this straight. Oh, capital letters. Love it. I'm not a failure. Okay. And you might have to repeat that to yourself. And some of you that are thinking about it but aren't typing in the chat is because you've got all kinds of resistance built up inside because of your situation or your past or your mistakes or your failures, where you even have a hard time typing that. Okay. All right. So let me show you what's going on here. I want to just draw a visual picture for you to give you an idea of what's happening here. So let me just get my tablet going here. I just want to make a few points. I'm going to demonstrate it here on the screen. Your anxiety, your stress, your burnout, okay, these are all side effects, anxiety, stress, burnout, depression, all the different labels of your so-called mental health problems. People always tell me that they're diagnosed with this and diagnosed with that. I said, you've been diagnosed with something to describe the symptoms you're experiencing, but do you know what is the cause of the symptoms? Okay, that's the cause of the symptoms come from your thinking, and what I call the origin of your problems or the original sin. There's things that you experienced when you were younger, or how you were treated, or these beliefs, this system of ideas that you think are true about you as far as you're concerned. Okay. We got to figure out what's the cause of you dealing with the symptoms you're dealing with. Okay. So anxiety, stress, burnout, depression, all these mental health issues, like Dale Carnegie, fundamental problem we have in the world today. It's causing all kinds of neuroses, psychoses, complexes, all those labels, right? We get all these ADHD, BBD, all these labels describe or explain the symptoms of the side effects that we're experiencing. It all comes because of the way that you think. Now, that's not the case for everybody. Some people have some real issues, real medical issues. But what I've discovered is most of the people, and I've worked with a lot of people, and a lot of people that were on meds and going to counseling and therapy and dealing with all kinds of diagnoses. There was a young kid that was apparently bipolar on the spectrum of Asperger's. He had like 3 or 4 diagnoses. He was on medication for depression. He was going to see a therapist and counselor, and his mom asked if I could speak with him. It was a Saturday because on Monday, the doctors were saying we want to check him into a mental hospital for observation to find out what's going on. And this poor kid, 14-year-old kid, was scared. And over the weekend, I talked to him a couple of times, and I explained to him how this mechanism works and how he's been causing his problems. And well, you'd be a totally different young man now. And getting off meds, diagnoses, all this stuff is gone because luckily we caught it early enough, as they say. 14 years old. He knows how to think properly, and that's going to pave the way for him in life in so many wonderful, wonderful ways. Okay, your emotions are causing you problems and they hijack your thinking. So another mistake that we've made is we get too caught up in our emotions and we let our emotions run the thinking. Your fear of criticism and your need or want to be liked, loved, has you on high alert. Okay, so we're really on high alert in our nervous state and our emotional state because we have this over exaggerated need to be liked or to be loved or be approved or be validated. And that only comes from when you were young. You didn't get what you needed when you were young, and you've been searching for it ever since. And you're not going to get the things you needed when you're young, but you can make a couple of tweaks and adjustments where you don't actually need what you think that you need. Of course, we turn to unhealthy habits to deal with our stress. And we think something's wrong with us, eat too much, drink too much, don't get a good night's sleep, don't exercise, whatever it is that you turn to kind of deal with your problems or cope with your problems. And then from that behavior, you then turn to methods to kind of fix everything, right? So you go on a diet, you go to the gym, you hire a trainer, you go to the counselor, you go to the therapist, you watch some so-called expert on YouTube and or Instagram, and you think they're an expert because they got 1 million followers and whatever, and they don't really actually know what they're talking about. And you try all these different methods, you go through all these different things like I did, and like you have, and many people I work with have. You try all these methods to fix you. That's the problem. There's nothing to fix. Okay, we just have to fix the way that we're thinking, and we have to fix what we believe. So let me just I want to pull up the my screen here, and I'm going to show you just visually. Let me see if I can get this going here. Bear with me. Okay. Are you guys still typing in, "I'm not a failure"? Maybe you should do that again. Okay. So let me show you what's going on. Hopefully you guys can see that. Okay. So many of you probably have seen, as anybody knows, my mentor who I worked with for almost 10 years, Bob Proctor, he made this little diagram of the mind famous. In fact, people think Bob actually made it up or created this picture, this image. There was actually a chiropractor in the early 1900s, Dr. Thurman Fleet, and he understood how the mind worked, and he was helping people heal their bodies through chiropractic, but also through teaching them how their mind actually directs their physical, emotional, and their nervous state. And so he drew this picture called the stick person. And so he said, that is the mind. And this little circle is your body. And he divided this mind into two parts. This is called your rational mind, or what Maxwell Maltz calls your forebrain. Okay, so this is where we do all our thinking. Okay, so it's not the brain. All right, this is your mind. All right, and then this is called the unconscious. Okay, and filed away in the unconscious is a bunch of things, beliefs. You got memories. Every sense impression, everything you picked up through your senses is filed away. And all of this forms what's called an image. Okay? An image of self, right? How you see yourself. And then this is the body. And so basically, your physical body is either in a positive state or a negative state. And that will show up both physically, emotionally, and in your nervous state. Okay. And so what's causing our problems, so if we look at our results, what's going on in our life, again, you're going to have negative results and you're going to have positive results. All those results are created by your actions. Okay. So all we got to do is we just have to take a look. What are your negative results? So I want you to just think about that. Jot that down today. Just make a list of all the negative results or problems, okay? And you have what's called external problems, and you have what's called internal problems, okay? The external problems are the results, okay? And the internal problems is what's going on emotionally for you, okay? And so if our results are created by our actions, okay, our actions are directed by our mind, then if we're not getting good results, then we have to take a look at how we're directing our mind or how we're using it, okay? Now, one of the other problems, and more so than ever today, is we have too much information, okay? We are an information overload. And that's why you're confused, and that's why you're frustrated, and that's why you don't know where to turn, and that's why you second guess, okay? Way too much information. Now, when you were little, the way that you were taught to think is you were taught to think with your rational mind, okay? Simultaneously, when you were little, there was all these things being drilled into you. Rules, values, beliefs, what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong. And very early on, you learn to judge yourself and to criticize yourself. So it started with people judging you, saying, that's wrong, that's bad, okay? Do this, that's good, that's bad. And so quickly you were judged and evaluated and criticized and teased and bullied, wherever you were treated when you were little, okay? And then you learned to basically judge yourself. So people really, literally, they feel like their whole life, they just have not felt very good about themselves. And so it's the rational mind, okay, that basically directs what we pay attention to, okay? So you have the ability to think, right? And you can think about your problems, or you can think about where you want to go. This is where you want to go, right? We've been taught to think about our problems, right? And when we think about our problems, it brings up negative emotions. And those negative emotions, okay, turn our body into a negative state, a negative, energetic, physical, emotional, nervous state. So if you're in a negative state of mind, okay, it's because of what you're thinking or the way you're thinking, right? Now, again, like I said earlier, what we do when we're thinking, we worry way too much about how to get here, okay? This is where we want to go. This is our goals or our future. And we worry and overthink too much about how to get here, okay? It's this part of your mind that figures out how to get there, not this part, okay? It's your unconscious mind that figures out how to get there. Now, unfortunately, what you've got up against you is you got all this crap in here, all these negative beliefs and ideas, system of ideas, failure ideas, negative viewpoints. You've got all these ideas internally in this unconscious mind. So you're constantly in a battle. You're literally in a constant battle of good versus evil. Okay. It's like Fred Flintstone. He had the little angel and the little devil on his shoulder. When I was a kid, I watched the Flintstones all the time at lunch hour. And every once in a while, there was a little devil and little angel would show on Fred's shoulder. So we're up against a lot of junk that got programmed into our unconscious mind. And so what we're taught to do is we're not really taught to think about where we want to go. We're taught to think about our problems. So can you see that, how that would cause you a problem? If you're thinking about your problems, okay, and you're running it through your mind and you're using your rational mind, with all kinds of stories and conversations in your head, and then you got voices in your head, your mistaken identity, the little devil on your shoulder, continuously confusing you, okay? And so whatever you think about in your rational mind, it is going to create emotions, okay? And if you're thinking negatively, you're going to experience negative emotions, and your body moves into a negative state. If you're worrying about your future, and here's your results, if you're looking back at the past, where all these negative emotions are, you bring them right back up, and you're right back to here again. And so that's that vicious cycle that Maltz said get set up. You can either set up a vicious cycle or a beneficent cycle, right? And so if you're going down the rabbit hole, if you're going round and round, if you've tried everything to turn things around, if you've tried everything to so-called figure out what's wrong with you and fix things or fix you so you can fix your life, this is what's going on. Okay. Now, I don't expect you to memorize all this, but I hope it gives you the indication of what's actually going on and why you're feeling the way you're feeling. You're feeling the way that you're feeling and thinking the way that you're thinking because of the way you think. Okay. So it's the way that you think and it's what you think about. That's what is causing all of your problems. And then you have to live with those problems and deal with those problems. Okay. And then, of course, when you're feeling these problems and living with these problems, I said, then things aren't going well. And you turn to all these different methods to try to figure out what's wrong. So let me wrap up today. I want to give you a few more key points. There's 3 things I want to share with you at the end here. Okay. I love it. People still say, I'm not a failure. I'm a success. I'm not a failure. Hell yeah. I am a success. I'm not a failure. That's even better. I am a success. I'm not a failure. Good stuff. That's a better thing to think about, don't you think? All right. 3 things I want to share with you before we wrap up. So first off, again, let's get this straight. You don't need fixing. Like when people come to me and talk to me and they reach out and go, they might hear me, talk in this class, or they might have, I don't know, heard me online, or maybe they know somebody, or they've heard me talking about this, and they'll approach me and I'll find out what's going on for them and try to figure out, what's happening and where things are going wrong. And the first thing I have to get people to see is that you don't need fixing. Okay. The only thing that needs to be fixed is the way that you think and what you think. And I ask people, would you just give me 45 days? Okay. I work with people and I take them through a remedy, a formula that I assembled, and I put it together in my book, Mistaken Identity. And I wrote the book because I wanted to give people the formula. And I also know a lot of people, I'd never reached them. And the only way I could reach them would be through a book that wasn't very expensive and it wasn't very complicated and it's simple to read, simple to apply, simple to understand. But I wrote that because I wanted to show you how to think better. So how to fix the way that you think, but most importantly, fix the way that you think about you. That's what needs fixing. Okay. You don't need fixing, but what needs to be fixed, the mistake you're making, you have this mistaken identity, this mistaken image of yourself. And that's what needs to be fixed. Okay. So again, your mind is this automatic, creative, goal-seeking mechanism. Okay. It is a perfect machine. It doesn't need fixing. Okay. It's not like the blender burns out or the lawnmower burns out or the stove burns out. Okay. And even if you are stressed out and burned out, that's got nothing to do with your mind or the machine. Okay. It doesn't need fixing. It works perfectly. Okay. What you need to fix is the way you're thinking and what you're thinking. So the way you're thinking about life, the way you're thinking about your problems, the way you think about you, the way you think about others, and the way you think about the rest of the world, that's causing you problems. So we got to fix the way we think, but most importantly, what we think, especially what you think about you. Okay. And you have to understand, though, this success mechanism, it can also be misused as a failure mechanism. So it's both a success mechanism and a failure mechanism, and it can be used either way. So all you got to look at is your results, and you'll realize you're using this mechanism the wrong way because you got the wrong idea about you. Now, here's the truth about you. And you really got to get this straight too. Right? You have been engineered for success by your creator. Okay? Each and every one of us, down to our own individual DNA, is absolutely perfect and magnificent. We've been engineered for success by our creator. And so if you believe that to be true, right, then obviously there's some things that aren't true that we need to clear up in order for us to feel better and do better. There's only 3 things you got to fix, folks. Okay, 3 things. Number 1, you got to learn how to direct your success mechanism, right? You got to learn how to operate this machine. It's not complicated. A few simple rules. It can be taught easily. It can be understood easily. The hardest part is practicing. Now, the good news, it doesn't have to take years or months even, right? You can turn things around in a matter of weeks. I have people all the time say, I can't believe things changed in 30 days. Because this process I take people through that the book is based on, there's 30 steps in the book. There's 30 chapters. Each chapter is part of the puzzle. Okay, each part is a simple little step that people take each day. Okay, and it happens very quickly. You don't have to wait for years to fix this, right? But you do have to learn how to direct your success mechanism. Number 2, get rid of your mistaken identity. Your self-image has a very strong influence over your thinking. So this is where it really hit me, was that my mind is a machine and it's directing my brain and my nervous system. So I didn't like what I was thinking. I definitely didn't like how I was feeling. And then my actions, there was a lot of things about my actions and my results I definitely didn't like and I wanted to change. And so when I found out that this mechanism is actually guided and directed by my inner compass, my own image of self, that picture that we hold of ourselves that you might not even be aware of. Okay, you've got a mistaken identity, and that's why you're stuck in an emotional prison. And your self-image is influencing you in the wrong way. And how do I know that? I just have to take a look at your results. I just talk about your results. I ask how you feel about those results. And then I ask you, how do you feel about you? And those 3 simple questions tell me everything that's going wrong for you. And then I know exactly what we have to fix. And it's not you. And it's not the mechanism. Okay. You just have to learn how to think, how to operate it. And we've got to get rid of these mistaken ideas that you have about yourself that you adopted or inherited, or it might have gotten beaten into you like me. Okay. And lastly, you've got to reconnect with your creator. If you want assurances on your future, if you want assurances that you're a good person, if you want assurances that everything's going to be okay, you've got to reconnect with your creator. You want assurance of who you are and what you're capable of? Go ask the right person. Okay. Go to your creator and find out. That's the place to go. The place to not go is not to a counseling or, some program or, if I just, like Nan said, if I just get a better result over here, everything's going to be okay. That's not the answer. Okay. Now, in my book, I'm just going to wrap up really quickly here. Chapter 18 in my book is called The Note. And I got a note from God. And I'm just going to read it. I'm not going to read you the chapter. But the opening of the chapter of this chapter 18, it says, "Don't doubt you are who I say you are." I want to read you this note. A lady came up to me at a coffee shop. She said, "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was over getting my coffee. And God told me to write you this note." And I'm looking at this lady going, "What is going on here?" And she said, I don't want anything from you. I'm just supposed to give this to you and I'll leave you alone. And so she hands me the note and she left. I don't remember what she looked like. I remember she was a middle-aged woman and brought it over to where I was sitting. And here's the note. Here's what the note said. I'm reading this not for me. I'm reading this for you. Okay. And so she wrote, "I feel like I hear the Lord saying, I've called you by name." And God says, "Don't worry. I've laid out a path before you and will give you the strength, everything you need to walk it. Don't doubt you are who I say you are. You do hear my voice and you're doing exactly what I called you to do. My love is a river flowing out of you. You're a blessing to many. I will supply all you need. You have many stories to tell. I will tell them through you. Don't doubt. Don't worry. I am. Now, I got that note in 2015 at the coffee shop. And I wrote this book in 2023. It took me almost 8 years to figure this all out, and then be able to put it together in a book. So I want you to just don't doubt, don't worry. Go back to your creator. Don't doubt who he says you are. Okay. Now, tomorrow I'm going to explain your mistaken identity, what it is, how you picked it up, and how to let it go so you're no longer mistaken about who you are. So I will see you there. If you're watching the replay, reach out to us. If you're in the WhatsApp chat, I'll be in there for the next few days, and I'll be online today at 4 o'clock Eastern time, 4 hours from now. There's an email in your inbox. We'll drop into the WhatsApp chat group. And if you have any questions, you want any help, if you're confused, frustrated, anxious, whatever, if you need any help bringing this together, simplifying this, crystallizing this, I'll see you this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Thank you for being here today, and be here tomorrow. And I'm going to explain how this image that you have is causing you problems and how you can get rid of your mistaken identity so you can do better, you can feel better, and you can help other people do better. Okay. Have a great day. Thank you.